Hi, and welcome back to Dirty Mary's Garage. So today we're going to get going on part 2 of this 1960s mower. We still haven't found any information, unfortunately, on it, but we're going to call it mid-60s, something to that effect. So today's video hopefully will end with this engine up and running again. I've been spending some time doing a lot of cleaning and this and that. Figured I'd show you real quick. I don't know how good you can see it, but we got both ports looking beautiful. The exhaust had some slag left over from where where the block was cast. I took a Dremel in there, cleaned that out of it. It's not gonna help matters any, but anyway, for an engine of this age, this engine is still in beautiful shape. We have hardly any movement out of the piston. I mean, I've seen the older engines like this. You can actually see such a gap. You can actually see the rings. So this is pretty tight still. So I'm pretty certain we're gonna end up with a good run out here. So right now what I gotta do, I gotta put that plate back on, and I'm gonna go ahead and bolt this engine back up to the deck, and then we're gonna get going on these valves. We gotta reseat these valves and also re-clearance them. So that's gonna be our next step. So we'll be back shortly. All right, so we're all bolted back on. I actually remembered the plate this time. So we're good there. We're gonna go ahead and take care of these valves real quick. I actually already did the exhaust valve, but really no big deal to this. Got your valve here. Some valve grinding compound from Permatex. A little cheapy thing I bought off of Amazon a few years ago. Basically all you wanna do, you take your valve, go along the edge of it, just put a little bit of the mix on there. Stuff's got some grit in it. So it's going to seat the valve to the valve seat. It's going to kind of regrind it a little bit. Yeah, hopefully that'll. So basically you're going to just go ahead and put your valve in. You're not going to get a full seat on these valves simply because the camshaft is still in this engine. So, but go ahead and stick your suction cup, which, I knew this wasn't gonna, this suction cup's junk. This is a budget way of doing this, but you can do this by hand. I'd rather not, but like I said, these seats aren't that bad. So you're gonna move your valve back and forth like such a few times, and you're gonna move the valve a little bit. Do the same thing, and you'll actually feel it once it's seated pretty good. It'll stop. It won't grind as much. I wish I could get this thing to work right. I forgot about this. These suction cups are probably about 5-6 years old, starting to dry rot, so I'm kind of screwed there. Oh well. One of these days I'll grab another set. I should actually buy a better set. This was the cheapest thing I could find when I bought them. I had another set that I had had for probably close to 30 years, and the thing finally got to the point of letting go, so I ended up buying these to replace that, and it's been a dud ever since. But like I said, you go ahead and do that. You want to go back and forth, move the valve a little bit, back and forth. You know, it takes several minutes per valve, but I'll show you. I should have showed you what the valve looked like originally. That should be. These ones weren't that bad to begin with, so I don't think it should take a whole lot to do these ones. Yeah, there we go. That's looking better. Don't know if the camera is going to pick this up. Probably not. Right on the edge here, you're going to see a nice line going all the way around the valve. And that's telling us that we got a good seat going. Like I said, if the lifter wasn't in this thing, I could get this seat to go down further, but it's really not gonna matter because of the fact it probably won't be hitting all the way down anyway. But these will definitely, both of these valves are gonna seal better than they did. And that should be good. So up next, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and set these clearances on this thing. So give me a second. I gotta put the valve spring back in, and then we'll go from there. All right, so we got that valve back in there. Kind of hard to see it. Here's your lifter right here, which is one up top. So your clearance is, you need some clearance in between the lifter and the valve when the valve's in there. On this particular engine, on your intake valve, it's gonna be 3 to 5 thousandths clearance and 5 to 7 thousandths on the exhaust valve. So I got a 5 thousandths gauge here, and I'm gonna show you, we have 0 clearance right now. I knew we wouldn't, just because of the fact that I did some grinding on that valve. So now we gotta pull that spring out again. Leave that like that. I'm gonna go ahead and take the end of this valve, go on a bench grinder for a second, grind it down just a tad. Then we're gonna take a regular and take a regular file, just kind of go over it a few times to smooth it out a little bit. Get all your edges off of there. There we go. That looks good. All right, now we'll set the valve back in and see if we have any better clearance. We're going to spin it a couple times, let that valve open and reseat again. See if we got anything. Yep. All right. Oof. I actually went a little too much, but that's not gonna, that won't bother anything. Might hear a little bit of a click for a while when we're running the engine, but I probably went to about 6 thousandths, which is a little too loose, but that's all right. I could live with that. So anyway, we're gonna do the same thing on the exhaust valve. I'm not gonna bore you with that, but that's really all there is to clearance in a valve. Technically, actually what I will do, where I did that thing a little bit loose, I'll turn around, I'll grind that valve one more time. We'll get it back down to spec, and that should take care of it. So I'll be back in a minute. All right, and we're back. So I went ahead and played around with that exhaust valve a little bit. I basically did the same thing. I made it a little bit wider, then went the clearance a little wider, then went and reground the valve, got it tightened up again and everything. I got both valves to spec. We got 5 on the intake and 7 on the exhaust. I got a fairly tight fit on both of them, so I think we're good to go. Had to put a black valve cover on here for right now, simply because the other one, the gasket let go. This one had a good gasket, but the gasket was stuck to it. I knew I'd damage it pulling it. So next time we're over to the farm, I'll grab another gasket, put the original back on. We have the intake back on. I got that all cleaned up. Put the breather back on. Now it's time for this head to go back on. So you're gonna notice we got it clean, but it's not super clean. You still see some indents at the old head gasket and everything. That's simply because we're actually gonna be reusing the original head gasket. A lot of people say, oh, you can't do that. Well, let me tell you something. I've only done about 16 billion of them. But here's that. Like I said, we got it clean, but you don't want to go super clean with the surface and knock it out of whack. So that should be good there. So let's go ahead and get this head bolted up. All right, start with a couple of bolts. I turned around, took all the bolts, ran them through the wire wheel on a bench grinder. So this thing should be good to go. I will be tightening these by hand. If you wanted to get technical on this engine, these things are going to go 18 pounds of torque. Again, I mean, if I had a torque wrench here, I might even do that, but I don't, so we're just going to kind of, technically on this, what I could do is turn the impact way down, but I just assume do these ones by hand. Actually, you know what, we're going to cheat, because we got a lot of bolts to go, so just do that. There we go. A little easier, rather than just sitting here playing games all day with it. There we go, that's better. So go ahead and get all them in there. We got to put our plate on the top. So we get that. So I cleaned all the threads up and everything, but I did leave the patina on the actual bolts. There we go. So with that, we're just going to go around and work them around a little bit. Like I said, it's 18 pounds for anybody that wants to know. But you can actually just kind of snug them by hand, and that'll be plenty. What I normally do is I'll snug them like this, then I'll go around probably maybe a half hour or so and try them again. There we go. So that's good for now. We'll let that sit in there and soak up a little bit. And on the ignition. So, like I said, we're going magnetron. What I did here, the clamp for the condenser, I have bolted that back in. They actually have a little plug that could go in here, and you can get rid of the points completely. Because if you take the points and a plunger out, it's just an oil leak right there. There's a little plug that's supposed to go in there. Again, I don't have one here, so we're just going to leave them as such for right now. And go ahead and bolt the cover back on. I usually leave that stuff in there just because that way later on, if somebody wanted to make this into a points engine again, they could. You know, I don't see why anybody would want to, but you never know. I mean, who knows what'll end up with this thing. So we'll just leave it like that for them. and that's just going to be a little quarter-inch, couple quarter-inch bolts. Snug them up. So, alright. And rats, I forgot the flywheel outside. It'll be right back. There we go. Got our flywheel. I went and slid on, just slid on the crank. I left the key on there when I took it apart, so it's still there, still doing its thing. I ended up, here's the original ball and cam clutch for that engine. I'm gonna go with one a little bit newer. I had one here, it was in really good shape. So here's the bottom of it. I'm gonna go ahead and put that on, same way as I took the other one off with my little extension deal. Put that on there. And we're going to do the same exact thing as removal, except go the opposite way. With the little thing on the extension, you're just going to give her a couple. Again, I'm sure there is a torque, but we'll get away without it. Alright, that isn't going anywhere. Alright. So, put that on there. So then we're going to go ahead and put the little, the other piece there. Notice we got that going nice. What I did on this, I used some very fine sandpaper. And this right here actually has a little felt, thing on the top of it. So what I do is I put 3-in-1 oil in this to get it spinning good and everything. Now every couple of years, you know, I'll pull this shroud and it's got a little hole in the top there. You just put a little 3-in-1 oil, soak that felt up again, and it's good to go. So now we're gonna put our bearings in there. So you just see each little groove there gets a bearing. There we go. And that's all this thing really does. It's meant to spin one way, and when it hits that way, it's going to catch, depending on, you know, which bearing hits it or whatever. It's really all there is to it. So we'll go ahead and throw the cover back on here, like so. You have to give that a little tap every here and there, just to seat it in place. There we go. Look at that, she's spinning just like it should. I don't know if you guys noticed on the other video, this thing did not have a screen on it. And here's one in question. That's for a Briggs & Stratton. You want to have that on there. Basically, it's more of a safety feature than anything. It's meant to it's basically going to keep stuff from falling in there, hopefully keep your fingers from getting destroyed. I actually had one time where I was leaning up against a mower. I was probably dialing in a carburetor or something like that, and my fingers ended up hitting this screen while it was running. Scared the daylights out of me. Because if that screen wasn't there and I caught a flywheel fin instead, well, I might not have fingers right now. So I always try and keep stuff like this where it belongs. And it's better too, so that way a bunch of junk doesn't get in there either. So. There we go. And one is that. Give me a second here. I got to dig up a coil. That's what I forgot to get to. But we'll be right back. There we go. I went ahead and bolted a coil on. We got our little governor arm there and everything. I think I'd showed this one before, this little card thing I used to gap it. Just got to go ahead and tighten it, and we are good to go in that department. And I did put never sees on these bolts, as I always do. It's a habit. Hopefully it'll never go away, because we don't need to be snapping them like I did on that Quattro. Getting those bolts out is not fun. So anyway, you got a 1/4 inch on one side and a 5/16 on the other. Put her up a little bit. There we go. And you notice your arm still moves nice. Pull that out of the way, and I guarantee you we got spark. I'm not even going to check it. I know for a fact we do. So I know the mower that coil came off of. So there we are. We're pretty much all complete. You want to give me a couple seconds here. I got to clear the bench off a little bit, and we're going to go through that carburetor. I have yet to touch it, so that's about all we got left. And throw a pull cover on this thing. We're going to fire it off. So be back. All right, it's time to dig into this carburetor. I'm going to see inside the tank there. You know she's nice and clean. I actually put a little super clean in here and let it sit for a couple days. Cleaned it right up. And I was laughing, you know, in the first clip, I was making fun of the gas cap thing here, but in all reality, I could probably thank whoever put that on there. Your regular gas cap's going to have vent holes in it, where this does not. It basically held a lot of moisture out of this tank for who knows how long this thing's been sitting, so worked out pretty good. But so I would mention that the throat of the carburetor was all gummed up and everything. Tried my best to get this thing out of there. That screw does not want to budge, so I gave up on it. But I did run a Dremel in there, got it as clean as I could. I think that the diaphragm style carburetors has this same shaft, but I want to be certain before I turn around and break this one, because if, we're dead in the water if that thing breaks. I cannot find any information on this carb anyway. But you got a screw here and a screw here. I believe that's all that holds this one on. So we're gonna go ahead and pull it off the tank. That way we can get it's got a little pickup tube inside of it. So we gotta get that out of there, get that cleaned up. And then we'll clean our jet and all that. Should just lift right off. Hopefully we don't destroy this gasket. There we go. Oh, yeah, it's not too awful bad in there. Yeah, the little pickup tube is in good shape. Yeah, just a little gasket here. I tore it up a little bit, but there's nothing much I can do on that. I was digging the other day on the internet, and I can't find any information on this carburetor. I was shocked. But is our jet going to come out? That's the question. There we go. There we go. And this is impossible to see in here. Your tube comes up. There's a hole in the housing here where the fuel's going to come up. It's going to have to go through the jet, and then there's a hole in the side of the carburetor here where it's going to spray it into the chamber. That's all there is to one of these carburetors. Very simple. They Briggs come out with this setup, and on the older 5S things, it's basically a lot like this. That was World War II, or maybe a little bit before that or something. So it was actually kind of neat. So we'll go ahead and all right. Find me a piece of wire here. Stuff through that. Where is one? Let's use this old spring. All right, so that hole is plugged. A little micro hole in there that's going to shoot gas into the carburetor. That hole is plugged up. So I'm going to have to find a real small piece of wire. I'll be right back. All right, so we're back. So I was able to get that a little piece of wire through there. Turn around, we got the jet all cleaned up. I ran some wire and carburetor cleaner and whatnot through that. So I'm going to go ahead and slap it back in there. Oh, it's just like we took it apart. You screw it right back into the carb. There we go. I think we're good to go on this whole fuel system, hopefully. Snug her up a little bit. Go ahead and slap this back on. I would love to replace that gasket, but I don't even know where we would begin finding one. So once I do a little more research, hopefully I can find, I could make that gasket. I don't have it even, well, I could even just cut up a piece of cardboard, but whatever. I think that one's going to be fine for right now. There's plenty of surface left in it to, it's not like a diaphragm one where it's going to mess anything up, I don't think. So yeah, if I'm not mistaken, this carburetor was only made a couple years, and then they went over to the diaphragm. So, like I said, I don't know any of this for certain. So, then we're going to go ahead and put this little piece in there. That's for your air fuel adjustment. I noticed this idle on this carb was cranked way up. So I think what it was going on with this piece was loose. Oh, it's a 1/2 inch. I always thought that was 7/16, huh? Well, shows how it's been a long time since I messed with one of these things, huh? There we go. Like that. And that's all there is to one of these mystery carburetors. Give me a couple minutes here. I'm going to go ahead and bolt this back on the thing. And then we got to dig up a pull starter and stuff. By the way, I did, on a magnetron, we got the ground wire. I ran it over to the thing so we can have a good kill switch. I have a patina special throttle sitting here too, which we'll dig out in a minute. So, be back. All right, guys, so here's the semi-finished product. We got the, this is a pull starter or something off the 90s on there. The original one that came with the mower, it just froze up. The spring's binding big time and everything. This will be enough when we started anyway. Got a carburetor all bolted up and everything. I ended up stealing a spring off another engine. We got some good springage going on here. This throttle shaft's still a little tight. I should have sprayed that when I had it apart, but it's all right. So getting some fuel through it's gonna take care of that. Like I said, we went full patina look. You know, the thing really doesn't look like it's been touched, but we know it has. I don't know how good it'll show, but we have got some excellent stuff in here. It's not spinning even right now just because of the fact there's no blade on it yet. Actually, we have, speaking of that, I don't know if the camera is going to pick that up. Look right here, and it goes down the side. Adapter's got a big old crack in it, so we're going to be replacing that. I got another one that'll fit it for now. But anyway, one last thing I wanted to show, as I've been saying about this carburetor deal. So here is the engine from the 80s, and this can be held true from the 60s or whatever. Notice your bolt right here going off the tank to mount your, that mounts the tank up. It's going to have the same bolt on the end here that would mount to the carburetor. You're going to see there's a boss here. That would be for two reasons. You can have your center pull, side pull starter, the one that pulls straight up, or you can mount an electric starter in this spot. But you want to notice on this block here, your hole's off, further over, and there is no boss for that. So, and on this block, you'll notice there is no hole over here for that setup either. So this is like a, it's a kind of a rare piece. I mean, I wish it was like a muscle car engine that, had value. It has no value. It's just, to me, it's kind of neat to see it. Without me, this motor probably would have went to the scrap yard. So, but anyway, I just got to go ahead and, let me think. We got to put the blade adapter and a blade on it. My throttle, unfortunately, the throttle I have, the cable's too long. I was going to mount it here, but I'm going to have to end up going up here and drilling it. So I'm not going to do that today. But what we're going to do, we're going to put some gas and oil and a blade in this thing, and we're going to fire it off today. So stay tuned for a few more minutes, and we're going to hear this thing run for the first time in who knows how many years. So we'll be back. All right, guys, here it is. Let's give her a try. It's about freezing out here, so. But anyway, I don't have the air breather on there at the time being. I'm gonna have to do some adjusting on the carb most likely and everything, but here it is. This is the first try that we're gonna see if this thing will run. So give me a second here. I'm gonna go ahead and put the choke on, give her a couple pulls and see what happens. So. If that's not a victory, nothing is. That was the first attempt to try to start that thing, and it's been sitting a long time, as you can tell by the innards of it and everything. But yeah, this one's gonna be just fine. We're gonna be doing some updates on this probably in the spring or whatever. I got a 1968 pull starter. It is white and it is rusted and everything. It's gonna look right at home on here. I gotta get the correct element for the air filter and everything, and like I said, I got a throttle and everything. But yeah, this is gonna be the one. It'll be sitting out here in a driveway. People will be looking at it. It's like, oh, what a piece of junk, and you go over there and start it in one pull, and she'll run like $1 million and everything. You will see this mower cut my front lawn at some point, just so I can show it off. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We're gonna cut it right here. This thing's bringing back so many memories to me and everything, and I'm just overjoyed to hear it. And we'll be back and we'll talk some more about this later. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and give me some comments if you want, and we'll talk to you later.